Hey, this is Tom, and I know like 15 minutes, it's a bit of a longer video, especially to be looking at me, but hang with me. Just have a quick question I want to ask with a few thoughts. So, I have a question I want to ask, and then share some of my thoughts related to the question. And it's not meant to be comprehensive by any means. One of the beautiful things about living with other people is everyone has their opinion, their view, their take, their perspective, and I just like to share kind of some of the things I see. And you know, you any point or thing that I emphasize can certainly be a discussion within itself. With can be sorted through, and there's a lot more to it. But just thought I'd share some of this, and I just want to read some of the things that I've have been processing and seeing. And so just have this question that I really want to push out. And the question is, where is this resurgence of morality and virtue in our culture and society coming from? Not so much the who, and I'll touch on the who in a moment, who it's coming from, but really where is it coming from? Is it a revival? Is this a spiritual awakening? It's exploded in the last few years, and in recent months and days, it's just continued to blow up. The call for justice and equality, the renewed emphasis on the evil of racism, rescue and help for the broken, needy, and oppressed, holding our political leaders accountable for their lack of character. Where is this coming from? And I think it's a good question because let's put it in context. We're living in a postmodern, secular era. We're on the heels of godless Europe. So if that's the case, where is all of this godlike language and moral priority coming from? Who's leading this godlike moral charge? Is it the church? Is it the black church, the white church? Religious Hispanics, the Catholics, the Muslims? Nah, I don't think so. What I see in the religious folk in churches is pretty much the same. Them holding to what the scriptures or their teachings are on right and wrong, good and evil, God is love and judge, continuing to give and do charity without needing to advertise it, reaching out and going to places to share their message of hope, doing what religious folk have done for centuries. So, it's not the religious who are leading this renewed charge for morality. It's actually the secularized, the godless that have been on the forefront pushing for such strong moral code, conduct, and attention. It has been the over-sexualized, violence-filled, anything-goes Hollywood, movie, TV, artist culture. It's been the secular atheists, anti-God college and university professors. It's been the self-absorbed, morally bankrupt, greedy, characterless politicians. In other words, it's been those who have been on the forefront of denying, rejecting, and protesting God and how theology plays the foundational and central role to being human and knowing how to relate to each other and live together. They are the ones that have brought this moral revival in our society. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. A couple of thoughts on this irony. First, humans are made in the image of God, meaning no matter what we do, where we go, or what we experience, we are designed to value and understand morality. The leading atheists, for example, no matter how much they emphasize and argue for their denial of God, they cannot get away from the centrality of morality and the meaningfulness of existence. In other words, they can't be consistent in their claims of denying God because what and who they are is God image bearers. So I'm not surprised by that ever-present inconsistency with them. So, as our society and culture has become more and more secularized, no thanks to the church and the religious, it has, I think, been the most secular among us after moving away from God and morality, that has recognized the need and basis for morality and a vision of things that brings meaning to life. So, because the church and religious have continued to root their morality and meaning in their scripture and theology, where has this secular crowd rooted its morality and meaning, if admittedly not in God or scriptures? And I think this is where a lot of the critical thinking and understanding breaks down for most Christians and religious folk. Let me explain what I mean. This is what I see. Christians and the religious are going about their business, following their beliefs, trying to live out their faith, and all of a sudden they hear non-religious or non-Christians using strong moral language, articulating theological themes, etc. And their moral religious antennas go up, kind of like when Christians hear a celebrity say God, or use a religious phrase, or anything to that effect. They automatically start assuming that those folk believe what they do, have the same worldview, or can be identified with them theologically or in faith. And it's my estimation that this is what is happening in a large way in relation to the political climate today. Christians rightly identify the strong moral language, the emphasis on significant moral social issues, but without asking the question I'm asking. And with plenty of assumption, Christians are aligning themselves up with this secular crowd and culture. Now, is that a bad thing? I ask again, what is this moralist revival rooted in? Really? It's actually not new. It's just found its way here, and now because of the secularization of our culture, it's a philosophy, a worldview that has a set of beliefs and understandings of who we are, how we should relate, and where everything should be headed. Philosophy flows out of theology, good, bad, or ugly. And it's becoming more clear that this secular philosophy is rooted in an arrogant secular understanding of who God is, who we are, and how things should be. Let me give a few examples of some of the teachings of the philosophy from this secularized worldview. One of the main ways it prioritizes the division of people is by race. The scripture doesn't. For the scripture, ethnic identity is not near the top of things that is held in highest regard to who you are and your worth. Just ask Martin Luther King Jr. Character, not color. Another one, it draws the moral line between people depending on a number of things, including race, power, oppression, sex. And the scripture draws the line somewhere completely different. Not between people, but between the individual person. Every individual is made in the image of God, the ultimate good, and completely corrupted by evil, the ultimate bad. Every individual, every black individual, every white individual, every Hispanic, every Asian, Jew, Middle Eastern, Republican, Democrat, Christian, atheist, man, woman, Obama, Trump, Hitler, and the Apostle Paul, every single individual is both made in the image of God, reflects God, pictures God, and is corrupted by absolute evil that distorts and pollutes the beauty and purity of God at the same time. Trying to use a completely different framework for morality and judging humanity other than the one Scripture articulates, even though it borrows aspects from Christianity and uses its moral language, will do extreme damage. As a Christian, as Christian leaders, as Bible students, Bible teachers, it is irresponsible and absolutely dangerous to attempt to explain and support political convictions and ideas with scripture and theology without knowing the philosophical views and beliefs that the political views are actually standing on. Again, where are these moralistic assertions and priorities from the secular society and culture coming from? If you are unaware of the doctrine that they are rooted in, you should be slow to speak and get to learning. The competition of one-upping each other in who is outraged, saddened, supportive enough seems to be a distraction to the need to think critically about the issues. Instead, we're more concerned with how we appear to everyone in relation to the latest social issue. The fact that slavery in America, past tense, that regarded other humans as personal property under law, is understood as a greater crime right now today than the murdering of thousands and thousands of unborn babies down the street from you because they are considered personal property under the law tells me that we simply aren't thinking at all. Something is horribly, horribly off. Again, I ask, where is this renewed emphasis on virtue coming from? So, one of my biggest frustrations with Christians today is that the approach to Scripture, God, and theology is at a kindergarten level, and there is little to no development in the mind. No one thinks critically about what they say they believe. And that is a huge problem. Just ask the 18-year-old freshman in the university who grew up in church. What's happening with that dynamic exactly? Kids grow up holding to something that they really haven't thought through critically. They inherited a culture and a belief system that they didn't have tested for themselves, and they are actually ignorant of its gravitas theologically. How it's developed philosophically and how it works in every aspect of life, personally, socially, politically. And I see that being the same case in our political situation here now. Christians, many Americans actually have no idea how the developed philosophical ideas that are rooted theologically have played a role in the development of the United States. And it's on that basis of ignorance we've encountered a competing philosophical system and worldview that critiques and attacks what we grew up assuming. It's not surprising at all that people are torn or found becoming enemies of what they once held as good, right, or the light. They never held it in the first place. And my response is, if you don't know what the rooted morality and virtue is that you once stood on, or that you're now recently claiming, your problem isn't what side of history you're standing on. It's your determination to not read, listen, and learn at the philosophical and theological level. There's a reason I've posted hours and hours of lectures, debates, conversations, Q&As in the last 6 months on the subject that handles the politics at the philosophical level. It's complicated. Anything is complicated. Life is complex. There are different views, different takes, and my emphasis and what I want to push out is that what we can do is continue to think, continue to analyze. There's history. There are deep-rooted ideas at play. I feel really, really weird when I'm jamming and rocking out to The Greatest Showman's hit, It's Me, from that movie, and at the same time sorting through how its message is twisted and damning. We want everything cut and dry, easily explained and manageable so we can get to where we are comfortable and maybe at peace. But that's a denial of the world we live in. It's going to have to take time, real effort, patience, grace with each other, and a willingness to dig deep in our souls, our beliefs, knowledge, and thinking, to see if there is truth that can be trusted and able to be explained. There's something we can do. It's something we should prioritize because it's at the heart of what it means to be made in the image of God and figure out how truth brings salvation to us being corrupt. We can think critically. We can analyze. One of the best things you can do is find the best arguments against what you believe or what you hold and see if what you believe and hold matches up or holds up against those critiques. I've spent hours and hours listening to debates between atheists and Christians, and I don't find the debates where the Christian wins super easily. You find the debate where the questions ask the Christian, where the critiques of the Christian and the Christian worldview are the strongest. That's when you learn, that's when you're able to think a little bit deeper about what you believe, what you hold to. And I think in the political climate today, we need to give a little more time and attention to analyzing and digging deeper philosophically and theologically. Ben Shapiro says everyone should turn off their social media for like 6 months to a year and just read philosophy. I think that's good advice. But these are just some of my thoughts, my take, and I wanted to push that question out. And yeah, so love everybody. Let's continue to press forward, seek truth. It's the best servant to love. Peace.